process going forward. So the goal of the restoration plan, as you might expect, is to guide the restoration effort in the impoundment and the nearby areas before, during, and after the dam removal. It's a long process. It goes on for years. It begins before the dam comes out. It goes through the actual dam removal and deconstruction phase, and then it goes on for years after the dam is out of the picture. It's really a remarkable opportunity that we have here, really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to restore the river channel through Ypsilanti and the nearby communities. This is a major infrastructure update that could really benefit the health of the river for people, wildlife, and fish. There's two major points to that. One is that it is good for the ecosystem, but it also really improves community resilience. We know we're seeing stronger storms from climate change. We know we're seeing greater flood risk. And this project can help increase the resilience of the river channel to those changing conditions. So I want to give a shout out to everybody that supported the restoration planning effort on the restoration subcommittee over the last year and a half. So of course we have the City of Ypsilanti, HRWC involved. We have folks from Eastern Michigan University, University of Michigan. We also have the Washtenaw County Water Resources Commission, Michigan Department of Natural Resources, and I'll point to Sarah Thomas, who is our expert that really provided a lot of helpful input throughout the project. And then we're engaged with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they've been really informative, guiding us through what's coming on the process, what we should be doing, what we should be looking at. And for me, it's been really interesting to see a lot of academics interacting with the practitioners and the city folk and the administrative and permanent agency folks. It's been really great to see all of this come together. So the restoration plan is quite long, and it gets detailed and technical in places, and there's a lot of great tools that it talks about we can use. But there are a few things that really jumped out to me that I want to highlight. So this is a very high-level summary of the restoration plan. One thing that comes out pretty clearly as you read across the whole plan is that a restored river channel is bad for the things that we don't want in the river corridor, and it's good for the things that we do want in the river corridor. So that is to say, it challenges invasive species, it makes it harder for invasive species to take root, and it benefits the native species that we want there. We do expect, of course, with a major change to the landscape of the waterway, that there are going to be some changes in the fish populations, and I'll talk about that briefly. We also realize that the restoration of Penn Park specifically can really provide a great example of best practices that we can use throughout the impoundment, but also along the rest of the river stretch through Ypsilanti and elsewhere. And one thing I do want to point out is that the work that Brendan, Luminotech, Ecom, Interfluve have done is really great. It really gives us more certainty around what we need to do in the river channel. But it is within the bounds of what the feasibility study initially suggested. So in that sense, the overall vision of the river and how the restoration process can go forward hasn't really been significantly changed. And this is an image just showing the alignment of the river channel, similar to what Brendan showed earlier. So the blue, of course, is the restored river channel. The green area is the recovered land area in the current impoundment. And we go through in the report the basic sections that members of the restoration planning team found of interest, and I gave them descriptive areas, so ozone house area between the bridges south, and etc. And if you want, you can go through each of those sections in detail in the report if there's an area that you're particularly interested in. Just as an example of how this comes together, there's too much to talk about. So this area that is right north of Cornell Road, south of the railroad bridge, kind of in this lobe of the river, got our attention at a couple points during restoration team meetings. And it it was interesting to see all the information come together from different sources. So we have the considerations for the scour protection right at the bridge. We've got this drain outfall that the County Water Resources Commissioner pointed out that we need to think about fortification there, or how that could affect restoration efforts. And then a few of our academic experts on amphibians and insects pointed out that this spot right here is particularly good for different amphibians and insects. So having all that information come together right at that one spot is the kind of thing that informs the restoration planning process. So how can we give those native species that are there a boost? How can we empower them in the future river channel? So we go through this long list of native invasive species in the restoration plan. A few things jump out to just to summarize. So as I said, the aquatic invasive species likely are going to struggle in a freely flowing river. The native species likely won't be affected, or they will benefit. The caveat to that is that the invasive species that you find all along the river, so purple loosestrife, Phragmites, the other things like that, those are going to continue to be a concern. And right after the removal, we need to be particularly attentive to that so that they don't take root on the recovered land. One other really important point that came out early in the restoration planning process is that we're likely going to need to do a mussel survey and relocation effort. Our stretch of river is particularly good habitat for valuable native mussel species. We expect that there will be state-protected species in the impoundment in the stretch of river, and we think that there could be endangered mussel species, federally listed endangered mussel species somewhere in that stretch as well. So we'll work with certified experts on mussel surveys and relocations to do that survey. Based on the results of that survey, we may need to relocate mussels somewhere else in the Huron River to protect them during the dam removal. What's interesting about this is that one of the major impairments for mussels is actually the construction of dams. So long term, after the dam is removed, we think that the mussels are going to flourish through this whole section. The restoration of Penn Park. So PlantWise actually did a really good assessment of Penn Park and the needs of Penn Park back in 2016, 2017. I won't go into a lot of detail on this, but they broke it up into sections, and they really got into a high resolution of detail on what should be done here. And pulling it all together, we expect that about 2 acres of land are going to be restored in the park area. We also want to do some invasive species management and some other things right inside the park to prepare for the dam removal. Going through all that, adjusting for inflation, we think the cost for that piece, that restoration of Penn Park, to prepare it for the change of having the dam removed, that's probably somewhere around $10,000 to $60,000 to do the things that we know are going to be required to prepare that for that change. There are lots of other things that we may want to do, and Summer talked about some of those things that came out in the community meetings earlier. But this gives us a nice benchmark for thinking, what's involved or what's the scale. And a lot of the work can be done by volunteer efforts in Penn Park as well. And so it's a lot of grass seeding, a lot of revegetation, and things like that. The benefits to fish populations were really sort of what got this whole thing started. Removing dams is incredibly good for native fish populations, and in this case, it is particularly exceptional. And Sarah Thomas wrote up a nice blog that's on our website, and I have the URL down here at the bottom, but you can find a blog post from her on our website where she really goes through why dam removal is valuable to fish generally, but then why is it valuable in this stretch of river specifically. And we think game fish species like walleye, white bass, and smallmouth bass, those are going to benefit. Catfish and carp are likely going to see their numbers drop a bit, and we know that there was some concern expressed about that in earlier community meetings. The good news is that we think the numbers are going to be very sustainable for robust recreation for carp and catfish. And one of the reasons is that the Huron River is a pretty good carp river, And this was one photo that Schultz Outfitters shared with us just recently of a carp that came out of the river. The Huron River is good for carp, and there'll be good opportunities to fish for that recreational interest. And I want to address a lot of the concerns about what happens right after the dam removal. So the water comes down. What does it look like right after that? And in that first season, and certainly right during the deconstruction, it's going to look like a construction site. Following the removal in that first season, things can revegetate pretty quickly. And we've seen examples of this in other places in Michigan and throughout the Huron River watershed. When the water levels drop, even within a season, you start seeing things green up. Over about 2 or 3 years, things can look pretty significantly green with small plants. So the challenge is actually getting ahead of the invasive species from revegetating the river corridor. So the challenge is actually, the concern is not that it won't revegetate fast enough, it's actually that it couldn't revegetate and we're not ready for it. So that's what we're efforting and trying to be prepared for. At about 5 to 10 years, it starts looking more like what's out in Dexter when this picture was taken. So this was a photo, I believe, from 2018, 2019. So this is about 9 years after a dam removal. And if you went there now and nobody told you that a dam was there previously, it'd be hard to tell. Lots of green, lots of small trees that have grown up. We know beavers have come back to the upland areas in the former impoundment. And I go here a lot and I often see raptors and really neat birds all throughout this area. So it's pretty exciting what can happen. And we have some expert guest bloggers that provided information for our website, and you can read more about those in our blogs. A lot of really exciting things, some interesting research on methane emissions from areas above dams, how birds in dams, and what's the benefit of dam removal for birds, and then how does removing dams help fish. So, and there's some other things on our blog site as well. So I encourage everybody to check those out. And then just to close up, so providing comments to help restoration activities, that's really valuable for us. So you can reach out to us, figure out how to volunteer, figure out how you want to help inform this process. Like I said, it's once in a lifetime opportunity to do something really fundamentally great for the river through this stretch. So you can email comments directly to me at dbrown@howc.org. I'll stop there.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's just go a little bit in terms of what equitable engagement looks like. I do have a timer, 3-minute timer. We want to make sure that we're mindful of our time. So 3 minutes, I will have the timer. I will also hold the mic. Okay, just so y'all, okay, just so we clear, because that's so don't try to snatch the mic. I'm strong. Okay, thank you. We want to find solutions as a collective, right? We want to be engaged and good for accountability, but most importantly, we have to be rooted in respect and thought. So we might not agree with everything, but we need not to attack the person. We need to be able to comment on the question or the thought or whatever that is. But let's just be very mindful. Here's the reason why I'm gonna hold up on this mic. You see what I'm trying to say? Okay. So I just want to make sure we good. I'm gonna have my little sanitized pump, so you good. We still got COVID in the building. So if you would like to have your mask on, that's cool. But I'm gonna go down a list. If you did not sign up, then let me know, and we'll make sure that we get you in at the end. I'm gonna go ahead and go down the list. If you could just raise your hand. I have Tom, and then Trisha, you're on deck. So Tom, you are first.
Thank you. So my name is Tom Buckman. Been a part of this community my entire life. Lived in Superior Township, the city of Ypsilanti.
Hold on, I left my phone on time. Hold on. Y'all know I gotta have my, okay. Gotta have my timer. I might have to have my, you get to listen, okay?
Why are there so many mics?
We might have to, I know, listen, we COVID, bro was in the building. Okay. Okay, sorry. Let me get to my clock, get to my time. All right, so we roll. And go.
So yeah, so just to kind of give you a little background again, lived in Superior Township, lived in the city of Ypsi, currently live in Ypsilanti Township. I am a stakeholder, not only because of how much I use the river, I love this portion of the river. I mean, it is our still water, it is our pond for the city of Dempsey. I hope everybody knows that. There's ponds that go up and down this river. There's something like 18 major dams throughout the Huron River Valley, as well as somewhere around 90 throughout the entire system of the Huron River. So we have to understand that this is something that, yes, this dam is going to have an impact in this area, as well as something that has always been extremely close to my heart is our city's focus on green energy. It's something that started out a long time ago with somebody named Pete Murdoch. I'm sure that a lot of you know Pete or had engaged with Pete at some point. But it's so refreshing to drive into the city of Ypsilanti, see our city hall with solar panels on it that says, hey, we're trying to get to a point where we want to be net zero. I think that we need to take a step back, just like Pete had said quite some time ago, and look at this dam again for power generation. Just because this is something that there is there's 2 dams literally west of us in the city next door to us that are used for power generation. I think everybody needs to know that, and I think that everybody does. Actually, one just east of where we're talking about, the dam just next to it, the Superior Dam, is used for power generation. We need to understand that. So to look at it as how can we be equitable as a society to nature and our carbon footprint, we need to think about, well, what is the number one thing we can do? Oh yeah, green energy. We can produce power ourselves. And how awesome would that be if 400 households in our community were utilizing that power? So yes, I understand we want the ecology of the river to be as healthy as possible. This river has been dammed for over 100 years. It's been dammed legitimately since 1914. I understand that broke and everything like that, but ecology changed even at that point. So yes, it is going to take quite some time for this to get back. And this is a very specific portion of the river. We saw the Dexter portion of the river. That's a finger of the river. That's not the main river. Remember that too. We have to remember that. So this is something that I love this river. I love this city. I love where we live, and I really want to see it continue its path towards sustainability. And I think that that's what we are going to lose a very special and very robust dam. We have a friend. I'm sure that people know O'Neill Construction. O'Neill Construction has been around for years, and they're the ones that actually they repaired all the dams that are in Ann Arbor. I know Joe O'Neill very well. He's a great person. He's another person within this area. He looked at that dam and he talked with me about what's the feasibility of saving that dam. He said, Tom, that dam is so overbuilt, it's not even funny. That thing's gonna last another 100 years. It wouldn't take much to restore it and make it into the gem that it is. So I appreciate everybody's time.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, so I'm gonna do this as we let me see if I think I have my, yes, I do, I have my Lysol wipes. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm kind of weird about this. All right, so Trisha, you're next. Where are you, Trisha? Okay, I'm gonna get this other mic and I'll wipe it down when you're done so you can hold it. All right. No, I can come right to you. There you go. There's a timer and I wipe it down when you're done.
Okay, I want to talk about sediment content, and I want to point out that there were 2 previous studies done, and there were 7 sites identified that had high levels of toxins for human health previously, and those are not included in your restoration plan, so there's a total of 9 sites, not 2, as well as 14 additional sites which were found with toxins above the ecology limit for ecology above the limits, and that means that there's a total of 36 sites that can affect the ecology. And the restoration plan also makes assumptions about the future river channel and bases the plan where the future river channel will be. However, that future river channel is not really known, or it's not controlled if you don't remove all the sediment and dredge out the river. And speaking of dredging, I do have concerns about the sediment quantity. It's been downplayed a little. It's less than 1 million. Well, 280,000 cubic yards is a lot of sediment. We're talking 20,000 dump truck loads. So it is very significant. And the Limnotech study says that 135 cubic yards would have to be removed, which is roughly 10,000 dump truck loads. However, the restoration plan calls for about 70,000, and it seems that that falls short of what the professionals are recommending. And the reason that this is important because sediments disrupt the natural food chain by destroying the habitat. Basically, when they're buried in the sediment can clog fish gills, reduce resistance to disease, lower growth rates, and affect fish egg and larvae development, as well as clog up spawning areas. So all this is negative to the local aquatic life, and this project is supposed to benefit. So if not done right, you are not helping the local ecology. Another thing I just want to talk about briefly is the flood model. The flood model did not consider sediments. If you fill the river channel with sediments, that does affect your water level. And I'm curious if you plan on rerunning the flood model with the 100,000 or so cubic yards of sediment that will remain to give Ypsilanti an accurate picture of the real flood potential. About a year ago, we had some flooding and some people lost their homes. And had the river been clogged up with sediments at that time, possibly toxic sediments, the outcome would have been much worse. So I think we really need to take a look at what we're doing. Thank you.
All right, Ben.
Thank you. I'm Ben Kuipers. I live in this community, and I care a lot about its biological and human and its financial well-being. And so when undertaking a project of this magnitude, it seems to me that it's absolutely critical for us to have a realistic budget so that we know how much we're paying and what we're getting. And that's just elementary. Now, I've heard an estimate that the removal of the dam is going to cost $2.7 million. We heard that earlier in this presentation, and I've heard other figures, similar figures, earlier. I've been concerned that those figures are omitting several expenses that we actually know to be done. And so I have looked carefully at the Princeton Hydro report, at the Limnotech report, at the Huron River Watershed Council reports and about restoration. And about a year ago, I put together, and this is available, I'll make it available easily. When we take the cost of dam removal and we include what the Princeton Hydro projection was and several other things, we add in several categories of engineering design amounts that are part of a standard engineering budget. Then we add in an estimate, which I got from the Ford Dam manager for what that would cost. We get a cost of $4.2 million, which is significantly higher. But that still omits several items that I couldn't find reasonable estimates of. And one of those is the restoration of the uncovered land. That's to come. Another is the scouring mitigation that we heard about, which I thought was very well presented, but we don't see a budget item for that. Another is the cost of the sediment, of remediating the pollution and the sediments. Again, we've heard a lot about the process, but we need to know estimates for a budget. And then there's the legal costs for deeds and all of this sort of stuff. Now, so what we got then is $4.2 million plus these items which we don't know yet. Now then if we go back and we look carefully at the cost of repair, which is also in the Princeton Hydro report. Actually, this report comes from a group called Orchard Hilt and McClement from 2018, which the Princeton Hydro people refer to. Their original estimate was $800,000, but it included removing the powerhouse, which nobody wants to do. So if we take that out, it ends up being $585,000, and the cost of that could be spread over a number of years.
Then just your overtime, so you can wrap it up for us,
Okay, I will
please.
wrap it up.
Yeah.
So we have 4.2 million versus 100,000. I think we need to have, now these are just what a citizen can put together from publicly available information. To put together a genuine proposal and make a genuine decision, we need a solid budget. If it's worth it, we do it. If it's not worth it, we don't do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. All right, I'm looking for Lauren Lynn. Oh, okay, Lauren.
I wanted to. Right. Okay. I wanted to just say my particular concern is with understanding the plan and the financial implications of the restoration of land that is not part of Penn Park. I think Penn Park is very important. I'm part of the organization Friends of Penn Park, and I care about it. But I also care about the many more acres that are going to be exposed, and how that's going to be organized, and what the costs again are going to be, and when does that become part of the budgeting process, so that we understand what costs we're looking at to arrive at a completed project, and where is that money going to come from?
Bill Kirby. Bill Kirby I think it's Kirby. King. Oh, Bill. I got two bills. I got a bill not nothing. Okay, so this is the other bill. Okay, let me go to this bill. A lot of bills. Here.
Hi, I'm Bill Canlight. I think we all here share a true love of rivers. That's what bonds us all together. No matter what side of the issue we stand, we want something best for Huron River. I've loved rivers since I was 17 years old. I'm 79 and a half now. I want to continue loving this river. I'm a volunteer chair of a committee that's part of the National Wildlife Federation. It's called the Healthy Huron Team. We look at all aspects of health of the Huron River from Milford to Lake Erie. We studied this inside out, upside down, all the studies that have been given. I understand the concerns of cost. I believe all those concerns are covered. I understand the hope that hydroelectric power would work. I've looked at all the studies of that. The challenge is the two dams in Ann Arbor, which operate very marginally financially, have a much higher head, which means they drop much further, which means they make much more electricity. As much as we would all wish to have green energy from that dam, it just isn't going to work. We've looked at, in our team, looked at all aspects of taking the dam out, removal, all the aspects of cost, of salvaging the land along the river, and we've come to the conclusion this is the best available process. There is money available. Definitely the point you made that it's cheaper to fix the dam. In another 10 years, we'll fix the dam. In another 10 years, they'll fix the dam. This will take care of that once and for all. I happen to have a getaway house on Huron River in Dexter Township that has about a 200-foot frontage back from the river. We use that frontage for recreation. And we launch a kayak, we fish, we use canoes there. I think that if that dam were taken out, the folks that are on the pond, and I understand you like to keep your float boats, you like to look at the pond, a natural flowing river is really a marvelous thing. We have 2 chairs. We go down and watch the river flow. And it's something that's marvelous to behold. I think you would be well advised to consider supporting that. Thank you.
All right. I have Mr. Lux, John Lux, and then Bill, you're next. The next other
Thank you. My name is John Lusk. I've lived in the city for 33 years, and I do live on the embankment. A couple of quick questions. First of all, Limnotech question. You covered the bridge scarring, but you didn't cover my house falling in the river. Maybe you would address that. Is that no longer an issue as far as you're concerned? And it's not to be discussed. So I'd like to know if I'm going to have a place to live. The next thing is the invasive species. Oh, they're horrible, aren't they? Those white swans, oh, they're invasive. That blue heron that does out in front of my place, feeds, entertains us, well, he's gone. He's gone. The ducks, the geese that use that pond, and they're stopped from Florida coming up or going back, all gone. So, as it was said earlier, that having that be a pond is really important. And finally, I'm chair of the city's Economic Development Committee. And in 2017, our bond rating was dropped. I don't want to see that happen again. I can't sell this city if we're in financial distress. And I'm pleading with City Council to say, don't do this if it's going to get us in over our heads, because that does no one any good at all. Thank you.
Y'all rolling today. I didn't even have to come with the Oscar music. Y'all doing it? Okay. We got, okay, Bill. We got the, okay, Bill, keep us on a good track now. We roll. Okay.
I'm Bill Nolting. My wife and I have been residents of Ypsilanti for about 30 years. Since we retired from the University of Michigan, we've done a lot of bird watching. So we particularly looked at the birds all along the Huron, going down to North Bay at Ford Lake. North Bay Ford Lake is one of the top 3 birding locations in the entire county of Washtenaw, with 201 species having been seen there. At Peninsula Park, we've documented 85 species so far. At Superior Bridge, 95 species have been documented. These include about 20 species of waterfowl, and the Huron is a main pathway for waterfowl migration. So the waterfowl go north and south through Ford Lake, especially North Bay, and then they go up to Peninsular Park. In the winter, we've seen 200 to 300 redhead ducks stay there for months at a time. Wood ducks breed there, mallards, of course, and a number of other native species. Those birds stop over on their way up to Gallup Park, and then the Barton Pond. So all of these ponds, which were created by dams, have been really essential to the migration of waterfowl. I think if this dam were removed, I'm not sure what would happen to the waterfowl. I'm not a bird specialist, but I don't think that we would see them in the Peninsula Park area anymore. As one last note, there's been birding done at the Mill Creek Park, where that dam was removed. And so far, only about 50 species have been identified, and among them, almost no waterfowl, Canada geese and mallards, and that's about it.
Okay, is it still somebody jamming the mic?
Yeah, it's coming from another business.
Oh, okay, so good music? Okay. All right, Beth is next. Here you go, Beth.
Hi everyone, I'm Beck Gibbons. And you know, when I look at this project, I am really excited about it. I see Ypsilanti really looking forward. I love that we're being ambitious. I love that we're really putting this dam removal as part of a series of projects that the city is taking on. We're thinking about the future of our downtowns as we're thinking about walkability and the work we're doing to complete our streets. We're thinking about the future generations that are going to be here as we're deploying these really innovative CBA, CBO processes on 2 parcels within the city. And here we are, thinking about a major piece of infrastructure and imagining what is it going to mean for us to be centering and protecting and restoring nature and being really connected to the natural system, which is so much a part of our lives. I also really love this project because in my work, I focus on climate change every day, all day. And removing this dam is an amazing climate project. It's one of the best things that we can do to come to the intersection of both climate change adaptation and mitigation, which means protecting against the impacts that are with us and ensuring that we reduce future climate change. It reduces our risk from future severe storms. It supports strong and connected natural systems. It reduces methane, the most dangerous gas that we'd be putting into the atmosphere off of our pond. And I learned today that it's going to help to reduce our flood risk as well. Finally, best of all, is that this is the kind of planning that is positioning the city of Ypsilanti to apply for and to win grants from the federal, the state, and the private sector. In my work, as I'm working on climate change day to day, as I'm an advisor to the National Climate Assessment for the federal government, I am hearing about so many opportunities, including in 2021, $3.4 million from the state of Michigan to specifically remove dams. I know that people are talking about the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. In the IIJA, there are $800 million for dam removal, and that is including for restoration, for fish passage, and for the actual removal itself of infrastructure from FEMA. This dwarfs the amount of money that is in the IIJA for hydro, which is only $125 million, and it is extremely unlikely that our dam would be viable for the investment anyway because we lack any of the related infrastructure necessary to pass energy, and the dam itself in the drop is not sufficient to create the kind of energy resource that we need. How am I doing on time, Summer? Sweet. So here's what I want to say. I'm so grateful for the presentation today. I appreciate the transparency that the city is bringing to this, and I appreciate the questions that people are asking for us to know the cost of this project. It's essential that we do, and we proceed with good information, transparent information, and that we're setting ourselves up for a successful restoration of our river, which includes the removal of a dam in the midst of the process.
Beth was like, how much time? All right. We got Peter, Mr. Church. All right.
Hi everybody, I'm Peter Church. I'm a professional engineer. I've been involved in the energy and transportation sector of our nation's economy for over 30 years. And I'm really excited today to be here to tell you about the possibilities that are coming in our future. Well, we've been sitting here today, in an hour that we've been sitting here, this entire planet has spent $60 million trying to convert our transportation sector to electrical power. Now the question about this that might come to your mind is, where are we going to get this electrical power? Well, we could build some giant dam somewhere, and those are proven to be a very problematic environmental infrastructure. Or we can take advantage of what we've got. And what we've got is one of the most sturdily built dams in this state. And it's also capable of generating 480 kilowatts per hour. It's capable of generating in 24 hours.
Oh, it's magic! You know! No, it's not so! It's magic! You know!
Okay, he was trying to say Peter was mad.
It's not so!
Hold on. Let me try and get it.
Wait!
I'm pretty sure I can do without it, so why don't we just keep going? So we hear about the head or the tallness or whatever. That's enough to power 400 houses in Ypsilanti with electrical beams. And that's worth doing. We've heard about insect population and so on. Right now, when I was little, I used to see monarch butterflies every day during the summer. And maybe I see one once a summer. You know why? Because they don't make it to Mexico anymore. They're dead because it's too hot already. There is no higher purpose for us as a city and as a nation than to solve this climate crisis. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna project out because they're having karaoke night clearly somewhere. Oh, very questionable. All right, you're next, and being Georgina is after you. Go ahead, sir. So just act like you got one.
My name is Rod Casey. By the grace of God, I was elected delegate for Ypsi Township. I have been a resident here for over 43, going on 44 years. I first came to Ypsilanti. I went to the park and I fell in love with it and said, this is my home and this is where I'm dying. Okay? Ever since then, I fished on the river. Me and my brother who was long past. You know, we enjoyed the river just as much. I mean, it was a place we go to meditate, a place we go to enjoy each other for the summertime. And I have friends on the river, live on the river. They have spent their life investment buying homes on these rivers. All right? But for someone to come in and talk about turning it down, it's unthinkable. You know, this river can be refurbished. It's cheaper to keep them. It's cheaper to restructure, to build it up. When I cross that LaForge Bridge, you don't know what kind of peace and love I get to see that old building in that river dam. We need to keep it. And we need our officials to listen to the damn people for a damn. To stop doing what they want to do. Damn it, they already put broadband over the recreation center. Now when the hell is they going to start listening to their constituents? It's about that time. Leave these people damn alone, leave their damn houses alone. They dirt, they bought the house when the river was dirt. They did not buy a house for a swamp. All right? Because that's exactly what it's going to be when they blow the bridge down. A damn swamp in their backyard. So I ask you people to tell your elected officials, you do not want the dam taken down. You did not buy your home on the river for a swamp. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I have Georgina. Where'd you go? There you go. All right, I'm gonna project out. Sorry.
I will do my best. Hi, I live in City of Ypsi, lived in the township before that. I've been to a number of these meetings. I am an avid river user. Because of the meetings, I started paddling on the impoundment because I hadn't been up there before. I enjoyed the still water, but despite that experience, coming and listening here, I haven't heard anything that's changed my mind. I think even though it's a giant project, and I think that's probably a little bit scary for all of us, removing the dam and restoring the river is the right way to go. And it is a big project for some small communities to take on. But I'm hearing what I needed to hear about planning for the big picture, dealing